Oh my God. Hey everybody. How's everybody doing? I'm so sorry for starting late again. I had everything working and then suddenly no video. Uh I just I can't figure it out. Every time I turn on the computer is something different. But man, I'm so glad you guys are so patient with me and always show up every week and to join me, and I really appreciate that. It's really a pleasure for me to chat with everybody, catch up what's going on, and see how everybody's doing. Excuse me, my voice is a little bit hoarse, uh, for some unknown reason. I don't know, but uh, anyway, in my streams, I always try to make myself available to answer any questions about Olympus cameras, workspace, photography in general, and excuse me, and just chit chat about what's been going on, what may be new going on in the photography market, and stuff I've been up to. I'm working on a new video and on just the basics of like exposure. So I need to get a couple of more things in line, but hopefully by this weekend I'll have that up and ready. And let's see. Um, let's see who's here. We have Rudolph. Awesome. Levante, always good to see you. Music with Sound Gear. Lysippus, hi. And then John. And there's no chat window. Uh I know you guys have a chat window, but I don't, so I have to kind of look at this other screen. I had the chat window working. Not, and because I had to check some box to make it show, but now it's really frustrating. Lauren, good to see you. And Roman says, I thought you are like Jimmy Chang and makes coffee before you start. I did that more when it was cold, but now that it's kind of hot, I don't want to have coffee. I just have tea now. Oh, look at my green screen. I should have a TARDIS on this side, but it looks like I'm kind of stepping in and outside of a TARDIS. No, oh my God, I got my hat on. Of course, now I got hat hair. Oh well. Uh, Gosh, I don't know what's wrong with my voice today. Oh, Trufan, how are you? You're brand new here. Started watching all your vids on the M10 Mark II. Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, they're a couple years old now, but I think they're still relevant. Uh, I've only had one or two updates to the M10 Mark II videos that I've done this year. But yeah, they're still good, I think. Um, let's see. See if I can fix my screen real quick. No, I guess not. Too wide. Hi, Tor. Nice to see you again. Uh, Arthur says 25 megapixels. I don't know if that's for me or not. But good to see you. Yes, you're on time. I was late, but I'm always late. I just don't understand it. I was getting ready for today's stream and I made that short video, right? And then I said, okay, let me go put a shirt on or something, and then I come up and no video on the camera. Just unbelievable. David, how are you? Good to see you. Arthur has a question. Any thoughts on a new EM5, maybe my 4? Not sure what you mean by my 4, but if you're talking about the new EM5 Mark III, yeah, it's a terrific camera. It's really my go-to camera when I go on photo walks and vlogging, because I like to vlog at the same time. So it's a small lightweight camera, and I pair it with the 12 to 32 Panasonic lens rather than the kit lens, the 14 to 42 or the 14 to 150. But for general photography, the EM5 Mark III with the 14 to 150 kit lens is pretty awesome setup. And I've seen it for low as $12.99, I think. I think that you can get it all day long for $14.99, but for $12.99 I've seen it. So if you have a little time and patience, you'll probably get a really smoking deal on it. And the, the high res shot mode is really nice. The in-camera focus stacking, and let's see. Those are the main things. 20 megapixels, but and the weather sealing. There's a lot of good things about the M5 Mark III. Nature with Music, how are you? And let's see, Bob Tishmarsh is here. Oh, so anyhow, like I said, I was trying to make a video on exposure, so I thought I'd start with just kind of the numbers and everything. But I found aperture is the most confusing thing to talk about, because it's kind of an inverse relationship, right? The smaller the number, the bigger the aperture, or the more light that comes in. But the shutter speed and ISO are pretty straightforward. But even shutter speed can be confusing depending on the camera you have. So I'll be doing it with Olympus cameras. But I found that camera to camera, they represent the shutter speed a little bit differently. Like the Olympus typically use just a straight whole number decimal system without showing a fraction. Other cameras show the fraction. Some cameras, So I had a little trouble when I was using the Canon camera to match exactly the settings with the Olympus, because the shutter speeds were represented differently. So when I see a 0.6 on the Olympus, I had to dial in 2/3 on the Canon. But it so I'm trying to work through that and the aperture thing to make it more clear. So once it's clear in my head, then I can make a good video on it. But that should be that should be a good video for beginners that are struggling a little bit with the math involved in cameras and doing exposure. And it might turn into a whole series where I focus on each one individually as well, but I just want to kind of give an overview. Tornbeck says, Rob, when I use the OVF, the focus point is often accidentally changed by my nose. How can I fix that? Oh, you just turn off the display, the touch sensitivity. You can do it in the menu, but usually right here, it's hard to see, but there's an icon right here that you change, and you tap it and it turns the touch screen off. So you'll see like a finger with a cross through it. That means the touch screen is off. And then let me make sure when I put it up to my eye, yeah, the touch screen doesn't change the focus point. So that's what I do. If I turn off the green screen, I'm scared to touch anything because I got video now. Let me see. Might be easier to see. Well, that didn't do jack. Oh, there we go. So this will be easier. This will be easier to see. So there's this icon right here. Right now it's got kind of the finger with the hand off. You just touch that, and now it's changed to, it's that one right there. I know it's hard to see on the screen, but that's what I would do. Okay. Already tried that. That doesn't help. Okay, so the other thing, which camera do you have? And then I can show you on that exact camera. Let me see. The other place to look is, let me check display menu. It might be in the EVF menu. Let me see. No. They put it in the autofocus menu. I know it's so hard to find things sometimes. Screen, no. Oh yeah, it's over here. Ugh, let me turn off the green again. I'm gonna dim the display so it's easier to see. Oh, I had it blasted up to +7 because I was on a job doing some outdoor shots. Where is it now? In the autofocus menu, it's right here, AF targeting pad, on and off. So on the M10, let me look at the M10 for you, hold on. It's got to be in the same autofocus menu. Yeah, you see, in the A menu, autofocus menu, it's right there. It's called the AF targeting point. Just turn that off. Or I'm sorry, AF targeting pad. That's the one you want off. Turn that off, and that should do it. As well as turning off the touchscreen on the back with that little icon. Those two things should fix it. If you have a nettle plant close to you, get them and make a tea. It's great for the throat. No, I don't have a nettle plant. I don't know what that is. And Levente says, you are looking for AF settings and custom menu, AF target. Oh, well, there you go. It's the last. Levente knew right off the bat. Yeah, it's not something I use much. I turned it off. I think it's off by default. You must have turned it on at some point. Okay, good, Torn. That worked. I don't know if you should be thanking me or Levente. I think he answered you first. Randy says, went out Tuesday night for a meteor shower. No meteor shots, but nice Milky Way. Oh, good, good. Yeah, I'll check out your Flickr page. Got some, I saw one of your astro shots on your Flickr page. That was really nice. You have an EPL1, the menus grew a lot, yeah. They have an EP1 over at the camera store for like, what is it called? Like $100 or something. I was thinking about getting it. Just I don't know. I shouldn't be spending $100 though. I just bought this frickin' computer. Oh, I got my green screen. Thanks. But yeah, it was cool seeing your shots. And you know, when I go on Instagram time to time, like when I do my photo editing live stream, I see a lot of people's shots from the ones that we were editing together. Anyway, this is my Doctor Who green screen. I downloaded a bunch of them from the BBC website. I'm like a huge Doctor Who fan. Been watching a lot of retro vintage Doctor Who. This is from probably one of the, because this set is a little bit too nice. It's probably from one of the newer 10th, 11th Doctor or whatever. Trupon says, the first pic I took off my camera was of the moon following your video. Turned out pretty good. Oh, good. Yeah, it's not hard, right? Once somebody just shows you just how to do it, it's not hard. And that's what I try to do with a lot of my photo walk videos and tutorials, is just show you an easy way to do simple things. I mean, granted, you know, you can really go take it a lot further and get much better images, but you know, you need to be able to start and at least get one good shot, and then you can tweak from there, right? Randy, you got an EPI converted to full spectrum. That's pretty cool. I was thinking about doing that one time. Like, just, I don't know which camera to do though, because my EM10, I don't know. I was thinking about it. My EM10 is just falling apart, so I don't know if I want to convert that because then I'll spend all this money converting it, and then it doesn't work anymore. Uh, but the EPL8, that might not be a bad idea, but I like the EPL8 as is. Huh. Anyway, lemon tea is good in weather, yes. Just need the right settings. Very helpful. Good, good. You know, the next step in moon photography or astrophotography in general is to start taking multiple images and then stacking those in post-processing. So if you have Photoshop, there's a lot of tutorials on that. If not, there's some free software. I forget what the name of it's called, but just look for star tracking or star stacking software online for free ones, and you'll find one. And then there'll be tutorials on it too, right? And then Arthur's asking, do you know if the new EM10 Mark IV can save any custom settings to a button? I believe it does not. It does not. It was in one of Peter's videos, I think, on the review. He said, or it was Robin, but I'm pretty sure it was Peter said, yeah, you can't do it. There's no my sets or custom settings on the EM10 Mark IV, which is a shame. Oh, Randy, you're learning the stack some Astro. What software are you using? Oh, thank you, Torrin. Deep Sky Stacking. That's the one. I think that's the one I use. I downloaded a couple of them. One of them is kind of outdated and doesn't really work anymore. But there's another one that might be the one that worked really well. Registax, I think, is the old one though. I had some problems with it. Registax. Let me. Registax release 6.1. If I don't, it doesn't tell me the date on this page. Maybe Registrack is the right one, and I get them confused because there's two that I tried. One was just outdated. The official is having problems. Where's the official website though? Well, anyway, when I get back into astrophotography, I'll figure out which one it is and do a quick tutorial on it. Yeah, Randy, you just use Photoshop. There's that works pretty well. And let's see. Oh, Serge, how are you? Plato's here. That's awesome. Starry Landscape Stacker for Mac. Man, you guys know all the software. And then Randy said, I took 5 shots at 10 seconds, then adjust one in Lightroom, copy the settings, the other pics, then align and stack. Yeah. Yeah, and then when you stack them, you have to choose, like, if you want to do median or... There's, like, so many choices, but I just used medium when I did it. Man, Registrax... I feel like... I'm gonna run Registax real quick. Watch me crash the stream. On this window here. Yeah, this is the one I was definitely. Yeah, I was having a problem with one of these. Uh, the Registrax, I could not get to work on my computer, as you can see. I just tried to install it and I kept getting these errors. So I used another one. I don't know which one it was. Where's... Come on, not showing up on the page here. Anyway, um, there's another one. Maybe a Deep Sky Tracker works good. Deep Sky Stacker or whatever that's called. Like I said, when I get around to it, I'll figure it out. And Lawrence says Photoscape X rocks. Free on Windows and Apple. Simply get their Play Store. Yeah, yeah. I really like Photoscape X. I use it time to time. Not so much for editing the images, but when I want to do some creative things like make collages and add some filters or special effects. And John says your Registrax works fine. Okay, I don't know why I can't get it to work. It just won't even install. One time I think I got it to install and then it kept crashing. It's just weird. And this is a brand new computer. I just got it last week, so this is the first time I've tried to install that software, and same problem. So I don't know what it is. And Plato says you tried to get some shots of bumblebees yesterday with my 12 to 40. Hard to get them tack sharp. Yeah. Another thing you might want to try is let me think. Is do focus stacking, engage focus stacking, and see what happens. I think I've tried it before, and it's it was no better or worse really than trying to get it in a single shot. But focus stacking at least quickly, you know, if there's good light, and usually bumblebees there'll be good light, right? I used focus stacking to try to capture some. And Serge is asking, do you take some dark frames for astrophotography to remove unwanted noise? I do not. I just use the camera's inbuilt noise reduction filter. Not filter, but noise reduction settings. So it takes a black frame for me and does the work in camera rather than doing it in software. Some might argue it's still better to take black frames. Uh, I forget what the reasoning was. But yeah, that's if I really get into astrophotography, I'll look into the all of the different techniques, but I want to keep it simple, right? I don't want photography to be hard. Like I said, it's like you can really get into things and make things get really amazing results, but the level of effort goes up exponentially just to get that little bit extra better image quality. So if I can get about 90% there in just a few clicks, I'm pretty happy. Roma says, your problem is that you don't buy a Mac. You wouldn't have any problems with... Oh, okay. So a lot of people last week were asking me about Apple. Levente says, noise reduction in camera only subtracts hot pixels. I don't know. It seems to do more than that though. When I took a couple of I did some really long exposures, like 15 minutes, and it made a dramatic difference in noise. But that's an interesting point though about ISO noise. That wouldn't be accomplished with noise reduction in camera. You would have to take a black frame. That makes a lot of sense. Oh, Lollipops, hi. Nice to have you here with us. Lots of great photographers here come in every week. you know, with a lot more experience than me. As you can tell, they're answering like half my questions today. Or answering some of mine actually. Um John says Astro can be so frustrating. Yeah. Yeah, the black screen is for dead pixels. Yeah, exactly. But it does reduce. See, when you do long exposures, um, okay, let me add to this. When you do the noise reduction feature in the camera, where it closes the shutter for the same length of time that the shutter was open. So if you're doing long exposures, say a couple of minutes, the sensor gets hot and generates additional noise, not just dead pixels. So the black frame or noise reduction in camera is designed to get rid of that noise as well, not just dead pixels. So it does reduce noise on very long exposures. I think in most astrophotography you're stacking like 15-20 second images. So I don't know if heat off the sensor and that kind of noise would be an issue as much as it would be when you're doing several minute long exposures. But just keep that in mind that the noise reduction is not only for dead pixels, but also for the heat generated in the camera and the noise associated with that. Noise reduction removes noise from night photos. It says so in the manual. Yeah. Well, you know, the manuals, they oversimplify a lot of times what the features do. So I test it and see, and then figure it out, or try to extrapolate it. Granted, it's all anecdotal, right? I'm not a camera engineer, but this here, Randy, I used Raynox and was lovely. robtrek has some videos with extension tubes. I was wondering. And Lauren says Mac is changing their processor from Intel to Apple, so expect problems ahead and updates. Besides that, you have to wear and Valdez says I still have fully functioning MacBook Air from 2010, never overheated. Okay. And Peter Zelenke is the guy to follow for astrophotography. He knows his stuff. Really? Is I guess on YouTube, right? Let's check him out. Uh I don't know why my oh, there I am. Okay. Peter Zelenke. So this guy, huh? Okay, he's got a lot of good stuff. I'll sub, see what's going on. Um I heard that astrophotography is out of this world. Let's see. May I rise a different topic? Tried the E1M3 last weekend, testing. Wow, thought I can capture my golf swing with 120 frame per second slow motion. Turned out with acceptable results. Yes, I think it's 1080p at 120 frames, no audio, and you have to acquire focus first. So that you have to go through a couple of hoops to get a decent 120 image. But yeah, it works. It works fine. Um, and Lollipop, did I miss a question here? Oh, okay. What is the best camera for a newbie? Ah, okay. So that's why they were saying, what's your budget? Honestly, I think regardless of budget, the best camera is the one where you can get really the most help with. And my channel has plenty of help on the EM10 Mark II. Uh, I think the EM10 Mark II or maybe the new EM10 Mark IV, but you can get a really good deal on an EM10 Mark II with a kit lens. That's the best camera to start with, in my opinion. Um, money no object, maybe an EM1 Mark II or an EM1 Mark III, because then that camera has a lot of additional features that are a lot of fun to play with, like the handheld high-res shot, the live ND. Um, but those things are just kind of, neat things to have. But I think as a beginning photographer, you can learn a lot with just the EM10 Mark II. So before you invest, thousands of dollars into a camera, I would start with like a $500 kit and learn photography as much as you can with that kit before going into other things, because you can buy an EM10 Mark II so cheap now. Uh, and like I said, I have lots of tutorials on it to help you get started and get into photography, working directly with that camera. And that to me is the best camera to start with. If you make a black mask, noise reduction is unnecessary. Um, I would I would argue with you a little bit on that because, like I said, of the heat generated in camera for long exposures, that noise reduction in camera takes care of. But I could be wrong. I don't do enough astrophotography to say one way or the other definitively. But just just intuitively, it seems to me, if you're doing a long exposure and the camera generates heat, I don't see how a black frame would eliminate that kind of noise, unless the black frame itself was also done at the same exposure length. And Michael Gaves asks, how can I manipulate the exposure so that I get rid of motion blur? Sorry, not experienced in movie stuff. If you're talking about for photography, basically you want to use the fastest shutter speed you can. And depending on how fast they're moving, but for people sitting around or standing and posing, you can get away with probably 1/60th to 1/100th of a second, depending on the focal length. But at a normal focal length of, anywhere between 20 and 40, you should be okay. If they're walking or moving, you want to get up to about 1/200th of a second. If they're running, like 1/800th of a second for people. For animals running, if they're not really far away, but if they're fairly close, within 10, or if they're like within 10 meters, you need to be at 1/1000th of a second or higher. And then if they're birds, the smaller birds, you need at least 1/2000th of a second. So when you talk about motion blur, you really are talking about only shutter speed in terms of exposure. So you have to adjust the other settings like ISO and aperture to get to that shutter speed that you need. Not, the other two things are going to fall where they fall. So if you end up shooting at too high an ISO, you're going to get more noise, right? But it's better than a blurry picture, right? Because you can correct for noise to some extent in post processing. But that's all it is. It's just about shutter speed. But those are the general kind of rule of thumb type speeds that you would use for different types of things. Um, Peter is an Olympus visionary. His night images are beautiful. Peter Baumgarten. Yes, Peter Baumgarten. I've seen some images from him. Yeah, he makes really nice shots. Haven't heard from Peter, but I think he just did, and Peter just did a thing about the meteor showers and stuff on Get Olympus's website. I don't have the link anymore, but I did see something. I'm pretty sure it was him. And Lysippa says, I got an Olympus 40 to 150, great price for the YCM10 Mark II. Trail experience for getting a 1 to 50 Pro on my EM5 Mark III. Her zoom is so good, I am now considering a 100 to 400 Pro instead. When you say you got one for your wife, did you get the kit version, the 140 to 150R lens? As trail experience for getting the 40 to 150. But yeah, you know, the 100 to 400 lens is they don't call it a pro version, but it is weather sealed, and supposedly the optics are great on it. From the videos I've seen on it, you know, I don't have one myself, and it's a $1,500 lens. But I think, you know, it's a little more than I'd spend on a lens that I don't need. But if you're really looking for a long lens, I would get it, you know. I would get it. If I needed a long lens, I would get it. I'm pretty content with my 75 to 300. Not a great lens, but it's good enough for me for what I do. But I know 100 to 400, from what I've seen, is a lot sharper. They say it's not quite as sharp as a 300mm f4. And again, this is all just hearsay, right? You're hearing it third hand from me, because I don't own the lens. But someone did comment that the 300 f4 is a little sharper, but the 100 to 400 does a good job. And your flatmate got an EPL5, or your flatmate got a EM10 Mark II with a 45 f1.8 for $400. Wow, that's not bad. Yeah, it's a great camera. That's what amazed me was the EM10 Mark II. Yeah, I switched from a Nikon D750 to this camera. After about a month of using it, I said, you know, this is it. I don't know why I was lugging around that big old D750 everywhere. And I used this camera professionally for 2 years in my real estate photography. It replaced my D750. And then that's what kind of got me into all the other gear from Olympus in Micro Four Thirds. Oh, how do you focus? Oh, yeah. How do you, Plato's asked me, how do you focus stacking on moving objects like bumblebees? Well, it's like I said, you're just kind of rolling a dice, because once you acquire a focus at one time, the camera automatically steps the focus for you. So you're just hoping that one of those that it takes will be in focus. It's not ideal. Maybe I should take that all back. It's just something I was thinking I would try. And I may have tried it before. But yeah, you know, my thinking is that you acquire focus and then it steps the focus for you automatically. So like I said, maybe one of those you'll get lucky. I could have sworn though I've taken an image like that and it worked out, but I would say I need to come back and practice. And then Trupon says, I got the M10 Mark II 2 to 3 months back for 300 with a kit lens. Yeah, that's good. I mean, it's a great camera. There's nothing. I mean, I'd argue it's like, you know, next to the M1 Mark II, really the best camera they ever made. That one and the M1 Mark II. I mean, all the Mark II series. I have a video on that, right? In 2020, the Mark II series from Olympus, I feel like all their Mark II series were kind of like their pinnacle. Like the very best cameras they ever made relative to when they came out. And that's why they're still very strong and competitive even today, in my opinion. You know, the M1 Mark III adds a few more features, but at its core, it's still the M1 Mark II. And the same thing with the EM10 Mark IV. It's still basically you know, actually it's a little bit less than an EM10 Mark II in some ways, right? They took away the my sets and probably some other things. Um, I mean, it's a fine camera, but I feel like when the Olympus EM10 Mark II came out, they threw everything in it and made it the best they can at that price point. Uh, just like the M5 Mark II and the M1 Mark II, they all really kind of peaked. And then every model that came after the Mark IIs, there was a compromise, in my opinion. Uh, I don't feel like they were the best they could have been when they came out. You know, they could have done a little better on every one of their Mark IIIs and Mark IVs, and now that they have a Mark IV, they could have done a little better than they did. I use both. Nature of Music says I use both Apple and Windows with a FAT32 plus formatted hard drive to transfer photos and video clips between them. I have the best of both worlds. Yeah, I have to talk about Apple. I talked about it once, very early in my streaming. Yeah, the Mark II is all metal. Yeah, that's true. The Mark IIs are all metal cameras too. There's no plastics. Oh, thanks, Lollipops. Can I have your TARDIS pretty? You can have it. I'll give you a key. Go anywhere you want. And Torrance says, I got a used EM10 Mark II from eBay for $230 with a kit lens. Wow. Just 700 clicks. That's amazing. Oh, regarding your golf swing movie. Sorry, Michael. Yeah, you asked this like 10 minutes ago. 120 frames per second again. I haven't used 120p on this camera much. Let me set it real quick and see if there's anything. Because what I'm getting at is shutter speed would still be, but I don't think you have that kind of control when you're doing high speed. Can't see where are my glasses. I can't see the screen. Oh, that's better. Okay. So high speed 60p. Let me see if I can change that. Oh, that's not it. Where is it? Movie mode. What settings? Specs. Yeah, full HD high speed 20. 60p, 24p. Okay, we can do that. And I have it set there. Okay, we're in manual mode. All right, so two things you can do is in the video menu. Let me turn off the green screen again. All right, so in the video menu, you have the specification settings, right? Let me get that to focus. That and you click there, and you go into the high speed. You click over there, and you make sure that's set to 60p, right? Like that. And then when you selected it here, you can confirm it because it says 60p right here as well. And then you want to go into manual mode, right? Or actually you could probably do it in shutter priority mode, like so. And then just adjust the shutter. See how it's at 160? Wait. You can crank that up higher. So I think for a golf swing, I would try 1/1000th of a second. And you may have to crank up the ISO to get to that speed because you'll notice that the f1.8 is blinking now, right? So that means that the picture is going to be underexposed. So what you have to do is crank it up, crank up the ISO. So let's go down. ISO's disabled, so it's in auto. But in movie mode, you can only go up to like 320 ISO. I think it 3200 ISO. But try that. Try increasing the shutter speed and seeing if the exposure looks normal. And that should get you there. That should freeze the action. If you hit pause, you should see a nice clean image of the swing. Randy, the place I used to go to for my wildlife is shut down. Oh, that's too bad. And Lauren says the Olympus EM10 Mark II with kit lens should be around $449 or less. I would look at $349 as a great price. Yes, I would agree with that. There's also a Lumix GX85, which is a good beginner's camera. It's more of a rangefinder style, rather than dangerous. Anyway, it's more of a rangefinder style, right? So the viewfinders, there's no hump, right? The viewfinder's moved over here. This is also an excellent deal. $499 usually with 2 lenses to get you started. And yeah, the menu systems are better, and it has the same like articulating screen and things. I mean, I wouldn't hesitate recommending this. The only thing is I would make sure that you can see the viewfinder clearly. Some people have complained that when they look in the viewfinder, it starts tearing on them or it's blurry, and they don't like it. And they've returned the cameras. So if you can, handle the camera, look at it. Look at this first before you decide between the EM10 Mark II and a GX85. The only advantage this camera, and this is just as well made as the EM10 Mark II. It's, you know, it's a nice solid all metal body. You know, I think the ergonomics on the EM10 are better than, you know, rangefinder or Panasonics in general, but the menus are better on the Panasonic, and the touchscreen interface is better than on the Olympus. The only drawback to this, performance-wise, is in low light, it doesn't focus quite as well in low light, but it has to be really dark, you know. I mean, you'll get there. It'll focus, but it's not as good as the Olympus. And I think, you know, Panasonic has an equally good selection of glass. I mean, you can use glass or lenses from either system or either brand, but it's best to always use the one that matches the camera, because with Panasonic, they have a depth from defocus feature to get better focus acquisition, and it only works when you use Panasonic lenses. So always make sure you buy the branded lens with the same brand camera when you can. But if you prefer, you know, that style camera, I wouldn't hesitate to recommend it. And Wolftick got a good deal. EM5 Mark II for $400, and brand new. Flash and 4 batteries. Man. And Randy says you're tempted by the 100 to 400. I thought you had a 300 f4. I wouldn't bother with a 100 to 400. You got a 40 to 150 Pro and a 300 Pro. Why would you buy that lens? Because all your lenses are already sharper. And Lauren says, when buying an EM10 Mark II, be sure to get the superfine turned on. Yes. If you're going to shoot JPEG. And Neo says, hello Rob, just got the 45 f1.8, seems to be a great lens. Yeah, it's a fantastic lens. It's a tiny bit softer at f1.8, but it sharpens up nicely at f4. I mean, if you can even tell at 1.8 that it's a little bit softer. I mean, for most images, I can't even tell. But when you start pixel peeping, you'll see that and that's true for almost any lens, right? Not all lenses, but a lot of lenses, they get sharper as you stop them down. And then Von Schwarzschild is asking if I tried a Voigtlander prime lens for MFT. I have not. Those Voigtlanders are heavy, especially the 25.95. Isn't it like all metal and huge, right? Yeah, no, I haven't tried. I mean, I would be content with, say, a Leica M mount Voigtlander, maybe the 40 millimeter scope bar or whatever they call it, the color. I forget the name of it, but it's like a 40 millimeter. I think it's an f2 or an f2.8. Very small, compact M mount, right? I get an M mount adapter. I'll do that one day. And Trupon says, you have a Nikon D70. Wow, an oldie but a goodie. I like the older Nikons because they still use the CCD sensors, right? The D70, D80, D60, all of those older models. And it just kind of gives you a little different experience in photography when you look at your images. I guess you would have to know that they're CCD images, and then maybe it's all psychological, right? But I don't know. I can kind of appreciate the different tech, just knowing that I took this with a CCD instead of a CMOS. And these are very fast, and I have one sharp shot at 1/16,000th with Pro Capture. Wow. And Randy buys 99% of his stuff on eBay. Man, I think buying stuff, you're pretty safe. You know, with all the caveats, you know, they have to be a reputable seller, lots of good feedback, etc. But I used to sell things on eBay time to time, and I would never sell anything over $200 in value because there's just so many scams going on for sellers. Lollipop says, what will happen if I buy an EM10 Mark II if Olympus sells up? Where can I buy lenses for it? Oh, the lenses will be around forever. Don't worry. They'll be for sale. If not directly in a camera store, you'll always be able to buy them, most likely online or through eBay. And as I was just saying, eBay is fine. The background needs some editing. Yeah, I have it a little bit soft on one side. Let me see. There. And my footer now looks a little bit off. Close enough. Close enough for robtrek. And Roman says, I'm still waiting for a Pen F Mark II. I seriously doubt it, man. I just don't see that happening, especially with everything going on. And Lauren says the difference was the reduction in research and development at Olympus due to the rundown. They were trying to save a buck. Yeah, could be. And Randy says, I got my X on eBay for 1,800 bucks. Wow. Wow, you got an EM1X for $1,800? Yeah, eBay's very bad. That's, you know, eBay is how I got my, not this one, my Pen PL8. I just put a bid in. I didn't expect to win, but I got the Pen PL8 for like $225, and it came with the Godox TT350, and it came with a 25 millimeter f1.7 lens. I don't know. I don't remember what I paid for, but it was cheap. I put this low bid in, and I ended up winning. I didn't even realize I won until I got this email from eBay saying, you know, you need to pay for your stuff, right? And I'm like, what stuff? And I looked, and I was like, oh, dang, I won. Serge is asking, what lens will I use for astrophotography? I'm going to use my I'm going to use my 8mm fisheye f1.8 primarily. I'm going to experiment a little bit with the 12mm f2 and the 14-42 kit lens. Maybe the 12-32 kit lens from Panasonic as well. Because, you know, just for demonstration purposes, because not everybody has an 8mm fisheye or, you know, 12mm f2. So I wanted to show what can be done with the 14mm kit lens as well. I might have a couple of shots already from last year I did. While that pulls out, let me read these real quick. And Michael says, I found the setting. Give the computer a second. I lost the chat. I can't see the chat now. Hold on. Okay, Michael Gabe says, I found the setting on my M1 Mark III. I have the set movie mode, the shutter priority. So simple. Okay, good. Yeah, that should work. And JBS Media says he's been using the 7 Artisan 7.5mm MFT mount lens for wide-angle astro and was very surprised with the results. Yeah, I think that 7.5 is an f2. Or it's an f2 or an f2.8, but it's a very fast lens. And it's, I can't remember. I think it's either 200 or 500. I forget. I think it's the $500 lens, right? So it's not super cheap. But there's one that's like, I think it's an f2.8 that's wide angle that people have said good things about. Let me see. 7. Go to my 7 Artisans, right? f.5. Yeah, it's an f2.8. Oh, it's cheap. Look at that. That's the Sony. That's the Fuji. Here's the Micro Four Thirds version. 139. Wow. Yeah, this will be worth trying for Astro too. I mean, f2.8 is fast. Fast enough for, you know, Astro. I mean, the faster the better, but f2.8's not bad. That's a good lens. Lollipop says eBay is bad for me regarding handbags, so it would be double trouble now. Oh, you know, I when I shop for camera bags, I mean, not to sound sexist or anything, but I always feel like a woman when I'm shopping for camera bags because I'm looking at the strap, I'm looking at the rigidity, what kind of things it can hold, you know, like it's like shopping for a purse almost. In a lot of ways, right? You know, you're looking at the style, right? Is it going to match? Things like that. I mean, unless you're an extremely pragmatic person, you probably just use any duffel bag. But when you're shopping for a real camera bag, you know, you can get really, it's just like shopping for a purse in a lot of ways. I bought a similar lens, the 7 Artist f2.8. My budget's a bit tight now, and I will just do it occasionally. Yeah, that looks like a good lens. Okay, Michael, you are an aperture priority, yeah. So switching the shutter, that makes sense. And Sephron, how are you? Good to see you. The GX85 is a great street photography camera. Yes, it is a very good camera. Hmm. Let me read faster here. Roman says, robtrek, do you have a GX8 or do you plan to get one? No, I don't plan to get one. You can get a grip for the GX85 for $30. Yes. I don't think you really need one. The grip on here is not bad, you know? It's pretty decent for hand holding. Rob, the only time you see a problem in the viewer on the GX85 is when moving the camera side to side. Not a major issue on stills. And he works fine with the Ollie 45. Yes. Yeah, like I said, the only consideration I've heard, I can't speak from experience, is that the DFD doesn't work when you use generic or use third-party, different brand lenses on it, I should say. Use Olympus lenses on it. What lens is that? Oh, what lens is on this Panasonic? This is a 25mm f1.4 CCTV lens. I don't know if that can be... I can get it to focus on that. But anyway, yeah, this is a cool little lens. I paid like $25 or something for it. It gives a really good swirly bokeh. So if you look at my video on swirly bokeh, if you search for that on my channel, I show you the pictures that I got with this particular lens. I need to reach... God, David. He wants to get the 2x teleconverter with the 100 to 400. Oh yeah, Robin just did a video on that. I haven't seen it yet, but I've been meaning to watch it. And Randy says, my fixed income says no. Yes. And Wiltic says, that's funny because Rob and I both use a Panasonic lens on our Olympus. I do time to time. Not as much now that I've got the Olympus equivalent. I still don't have the equivalent. I want to replace this Panasonic 7 to 14 f4 with a an Olympus 8 to 25 if it ever comes out. I'm almost getting to the point where I'm tired of waiting. I might just have to buy the 9 to 18 from Olympus. But I guess I can wait. I'm getting by fine with my fisheye lens for my professional work. But you know, I have to crop in so much sometimes. And Lauren says the GX9 has a 20 megapixel sensor, 12 to 60 lens for $799. That's, yeah, I've seen the GX9. I think, yeah, Lauren's pointed to me that camera to me a couple of times. And I think that has the whatchamacallit too, right? The tilty EVF, right? So let's see. Panasonic GX9. Here's one, $797, right? This is what you're talking about. And 20 megapixels, 5-axis, 2.7 million live view. I think it has the same EVF as the GX85, but like I said, most people don't have, a lot of people I don't think have a problem with the EVF, just some, right? 4K 30p video. 4K Ultra HD at 2160. What I was curious was, oh yeah, this, see the viewfinder? Tilts up, that's kind of cool. And it's only $797. Look at the dials. Pretty much just like the GX85. It has one more dial. It has like a little flip thing to switch autofocus modes. That's pretty handy. And then on top it has the thing. Yeah, it looks okay. I think it's a good deal. I mean, I would still buy an EM10 over that camera personally. I just like the dials on this better. Right here and here, a mode dial. because on the GX kind of Sonics, you know, the dials are very tiny. It has this little one on the front, right? And then this little tiny one on the back. Just ergonomically, it doesn't work quite as well for me. I mean, you get used to anything. Once you develop the muscle memory, it'll be fine. But my muscle memory is all Olympus, because almost any Olympus camera I pick up, the dials are all on top, right? Here's my, here's my EM5. Nice two big dials, front and back, right? Mode dial. And then same thing with EM1, front and back dials right there and right there. It's just the way my fingers are trained now. You know, my Fuji X-T30 is the same issue. It just, the dials are real small on the front and back. Where is that camera? This one. Oh. But you can see this one has this little tiny dial. It's hard to see. Little tiny dial there. Little tiny dial here. Right? Just real small to go back and forth. Yeah, it has these big dials on top, so you have this kind of pseudo mode dial, which is the same as the Olympus, but then exposure comp, which is handy, and then shutter mode. I don't know. I just feel like the Olympus, I'm just used to Olympus. It works better for me than any other camera I've used. JBS says you sold your GX7 and regret it. Yeah, it's tough. That's why I can never get rid of anything. Yeah, Wolftick, like I said, I got a video on that. Swirly Bokeh video. And the M1X, 1,800 pounds in the UK. Wow. Come down a lot. Please talk about Apple. Their native RAW support has been atrocious in iOS and OS X. Wow, okay. My Apple story has nothing to do with compatibility with RAW support or using it at all. It's more of a personal story. So I'll end the stream with that story. Let's see. I can try here in chat, but on YouTube it will not display. It's blocked. I'm not sure what you're trying. And JBS says, yes, it's an f2.8 at 90. Oh, so you must be talking about the 7.5 millimeter from Artisans. Yeah, it's 139 here in the US. 99 pounds there. And Serge bought one for 75 euros on Ali. Wow. Of course, you probably had to wait a month to get it, but worth it, right? And Randy, you were able to focus. Yeah, just focus manually in live view. It's not that big a deal, right? For stars, focusing on stars, you just punch in and zoom in and rotate your lens ring. Does anybody really see a difference between 16 and 20 megapixels in real life? No. Nobody does. I mean, you have to be really looking for it, you know? And pixel peeping to see it. And Lauren says the GX9 has specs of an EM5 in many ways, and the 12 to 60 lens is worth $495. Possibly, yeah. It's probably very comparable or very competitive with the M5. I wouldn't doubt that. Anyone tried the Sigma DC16 f1.4 for Astro? No, I have not. But that's not really that wide. 16 millimeter be a little bit tight for most, like if you want to capture like the whole sky with the Milky Way. I mean, you can use 16 for other kinds of shots maybe, but you know, when I think of astro, I think of capturing the entire sky, and even 12 millimeter is tight, so 16 would be a lot tighter. Uh, although it is fast, right? At 1.4, so that might be the trade-off. And Parsley Lion says, you just mentioned the M10. Have you discussed the new Mark IV already? And have you done, we'll be doing a video of the latest model. No, I haven't really talked about the Mark IV, and I probably will not do a video on it because I just don't own that camera. All the reviews or anything I talk about, it's 99% is because I own it myself, so I can talk about it. But you know, the one thing I like about the M10 Mark IV is the way the screen flips all the way down. Rather than doing, like, you know, a lot of cameras these days, they're doing the fully articulating, right? But I think flipping down 90 degrees is better. I prefer that over the fully articulating for general photography. For video, yeah, I prefer the flip around screen like I have on that, like I just showed, but for everything else, I'd rather have like the M10 Mark IV has. Just like my Pen PL8. You know, the Pen PL8, this was my go-to camera forever, you know. The way it flips all the way down, but it's also just a normal tilt, right? I can tilt this way or this way. And you can tilt 90 degrees, so if you hold the camera up high, and then you can tilt it 90 degrees this way, so if you hold the camera really low, you know, it's like the best. It's really the best for photography, in my opinion. It doesn't get in the way, and you can, etc., etc. And live stream is, oh, thanks, Bob. Yeah, I need to get on to my live stream editing show. If you're not a vlogger, skip the M10 Mark IV. Actually, Neo, I think if you are a vlogger, you want to skip the EM10 Mark IV. If you're a photographer, EM10 Mark IV is great. I think for vlogging, though, it'd be terrible because there's no mic jack. And it's not a fully articulating screen, which is probably better than the way it works now. So I'd have to disagree. So I only got a couple minutes before my next stream where I do photo editing. You guys submit your pictures to me and I edit them live for you. So I need to get going to that. But let me share my Apple story real quick. Well, let me think. Can I do the Apple story in 1 minute? It's taken me a minute to remember the story. Okay, the Apple story. Back in the 80s, when they still had like the Apple, it was the Apple. It came in like a little rectangular cube and had a black and white screen and a mouse and one little floppy disk drive, right? And I was shopping for a computer, so I went to the Apple store. They had Apple stores back there. They called them Macworld or something. So I went there, and the guy was showing me, you know, all the things. He was showing me how to use the mouse, which was kind of innovative at the time. I was like, oh man, that's cool. And then he was drawing things on the screen, and my eyes were like, wow, this Apple is awesome, you know, this little Apple thing. And oh God, what vintage Mac would help if you guys knew this one. So it was this one over here. I thought it was the best thing ever, right? And then the guy said, I said, okay, so he said, let me save let me show you how to save a file, the picture we just drew with the mouse. It was just some stupid monochromatic thing. So he put the disk in there and he clicked save. And I looked at the disk drive, right? Let me look at this picture again. it, it's hard to see with this little tiny picture. But this disk drive was going, and I said, where's the little light to let you know that it's writing or reading from the drive? And the guy looked at me and he said, oh, you guys are looking at my my chat screen. The guy looked at me and he said, what do you need a light for? It's stupid. You don't need a light. And I was like, I said, I gotta go. The guy looked at me like I was an idiot because I asked him, why isn't there a light there? And ever since then, I never bought an Apple. Never bought an Apple product. Because that guy pissed me off. And that's why I don't buy Apple. So it's got nothing to do with the product itself and what it can or can't do. It's because, 40 years ago, the guy at the Apple store pissed me off. And I said, Apple's never going to see a dime from me as long as I live. So that's my Apple story. It's the best I can remember. So I need to get going to my next stream. Everybody, thanks for coming in today. I really appreciate it. I always have a great time chatting with everyone. And we'll see you again on Sunday.